Good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland here, Oklahoma Corrections Professionals, along with Representative J.J. Humphrey, talking about many topics today concerning DOC. And I know that I guess there's no end to it. We're still shorthanded. Doesn't seem to be getting any better from that area. It would be interesting to know how many actually officers we have today.
Bob, boy, mercy sakes, my wife brought me some coffee, and man, that stuff is hot. It's called hot coffee, Bob. Yeah. Hey, it is. Bob, here's the thing. That's the deal on real numbers has always been a problem when we're talking about the Department of Corrections because, Bob, if you remember 3 years ago how we got such a fight over what was the shortage of officers. And again, we come out and we had a number, and they come out and said we lost our mind. And Bob, I think it's really important. I don't know that our listeners, how many times have we explained how that they use these pens to manipulate the numbers? And yet I talked to a pretty high-ranking individual the other day, and they were like, well, the reason that we're shorthanded is you legislators have cut our funding.
What?
And I'm like, hey, listen, man, we've never.
Is that what they're saying?
That was what the understanding was, and that's what he had been told. I took it. I'm like, we've never cut you funding, never, ever cut the funding. And I said, here's what happens is that they cut the pens when you don't use, say you got 20 positions there and you ain't filled them, they come back and say, well, you don't need these 20. We'll just cut these 20. And you just see, used to you could go to your master roster. Now I understand they're not even using them, and they've kind of abandoned that. So again, trying to determine, well, how many people 3 years ago did you have and how many people do you have today is getting harder and harder to do. They manipulate these pens. I used to really get aggravated at the financial person, and I kind of really advocated for moving them on. But I've come to the conclusion there's no way that person probably could do that if it wasn't approved at a level. And so again, I don't know whether that person's responsible or who's responsible. But I do believe, Bob, it's really important that everybody understand that that's not us, and that we work very diligently to get a huge raise. And that the way we got that raise is by exposing how many they were short, and that the legislators were paying for those that weren't there. So if you pay them for 100 and they only have 50, where's the other 50%? And we come back and said, you got 900. I think we said 750, and they come back and said it's 940, I think was the number. But Bob, that's when you're looking at each one of those people for a package, when you talk about your health care and all that, retirement, each one lowest minimum amount was $55,400. So multiply that times 940, you can see we're talking some change. And Bob, we hadn't even talked about probation officers shortage. We hadn't talked about nursing shortage. So you can see when we start talking about these shortages, and if you looked at that, we're paying full salary. The legislators are paying 100% of those salaries, and they only got, say they got 50% of them. Where is that money? And I know some of it where it is because we got a big raise out of the deal.
Well, it's interesting how they work it, and just can't be transparent. I don't care. They're just you're not going to be transparent with these guys. They don't want it. They want to hide everything. I think we've had a more incidents in stabbings. I know we had more beatings, inmate on inmate, happening at the facilities, and never hear anything about it. Never hear anything about it.
That's another number. Again, if we were looking at transparency, back 3-4 years ago, we got numbers of how many assaults you had, how many write-ups were given. I mean, it had pretty detailed information.
Right.
No longer get anything on that. We don't get information. I have said for some time that what you will see when you have the shortage of staff that we see, you're going to see more drugs in. I've definitely heard they can't keep, I mean, they just aren't enough hands to keep the drugs out. That's a problem. Contraband's a problem. Violence on inmate violence. If you talk to, I had a report the other day come from two different people, whether they know what they're talking about, but they talk like in one facility that the inmates were actually moving people from cell to cell, like the inmates were in control of it. And again, I'm not saying that's so. I just got that report from a couple of people, but that's what the problem is, Bob. All of our reports come from, either correctional officers, employees, inmate families, inmates themselves. All of our information is coming from there. We never get information from the other side. Again, if I do get information from the other side, and that's not just on this administration, Bob, if you remember, they had a person when I first started up there, even when Joe Albaugh was there, who did their financial stuff. And if they sent me anything that person sent me, I was like, I don't believe it. You're going to have to verify it, that. Yeah. So that's been a problem for a while, is that you have a hard time believing their information, but you still like to get it so you can compare it to what you're hearing and try to come up with what you can believe and what is the truth. And man, I get from both sides, you're negative, you're this, you're that, you're lying. Bob, if anybody on here if they're listening, we constantly try to say, this is what we were told. This is what we hear. We try if we can to tell where we heard it, but a lot of times we can't tell where we hear it because 90% of the people we get call in, don't use my name, don't tell me, but now I will tell you this, Bob, I think that's changing quite a bit. In the last week or two, I've had more people. In fact, I had 3 people just quit and have contacted me, and they're ready to come forward on a bunch of stuff. So, you know what I mean? I think that people are just either quitting, getting tired. And so I've had several people here lately come forward that are less concerned about their name, that are just like, hey, this can't go on.
Well, the people that's quitting, it seems to be a lot, but I would imagine it's probably not any more than what it has been in the past year. But that's another problem they got, is they can't keep people because of the way they treat them.
Well, Bob, that's another number that we don't know. How many people are you getting to come in? I mean, how's your recruitment going? I would really like to, are we doing a good job recruiting? Are we about the same place? At one time, I know they were doing, I know they had 2 academies going on at one time. And at one time, I know that they were actually out there having some recruitment. But according to what I was told, was that they were losing people about as quick as they could hire them. And so the deal is, Harp come out with our director Harp came out with a news article that they kind of wrote on themselves that said that we were doing an astronomical, that we've increased retention. I forget what it was, 16% or something like that. And again, it's easy to make statements. It's easy to say you're doing something without any kind of documentation or accountability to say that we've actually done that. And again, I hope they do. I would be proud. In fact, I would, I hope he gets double that. I hope he get 32, 50. I don't have any animosity towards the director. In fact, I wish him. That's what's funny. They've made me out to be, and you too, Bob. They've made us out to like we hate the department, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I know your heart. I know my heart. We love the department and we love the employees of the department. And we're both. I don't think there's anybody championed or fought any more for the employees of the Department of Corrections than you and me.
Well, they fired an officer just recently over a death of an inmate, trying to put the blame on him, which is ironic. It's really they don't have enough people to take care of it. The people they got, the inmates they have, they don't have enough people. They got guys, but this guy was terminated. Never had any issues with him. I think he was a lieutenant, and during the investigation, he got promoted to a captain. But it's kind of about the same old thing that's going on here. They don't really take a hard look at what they're doing on firing people.
Well, Bob, and that's what I can't understand is if you're shorthanded, how do you expect these people to do 2, 3, 4 jobs? And again, somebody puts an inmate, doesn't move an inmate, there's situations where I think it would warrant if somebody dies, I think you have to look at was something not done that was critical. But again, if somebody comes and tells you, hey, that happens, and it's something that you're getting told every day, something every day is going on. I mean, every day at prison, somebody's fighting somebody's doing something, So at the end of the day, does that rise to the level? Now, you go down there and man's laying on the floor bleeding, and you go, I'll come back and see you here in a little bit, or hang out there and I'll be back in a little while, and you come back 10 hours later and he's dead. Okay, that would warrant firing somebody, you know what I mean? But short of so many of these things are happening because you don't have enough employees to take care of something or check into something as it should be, or somebody opens the door because somebody didn't tell them about something. I mean, Bob, remember the guy that the medical come and said, we're not going down there and delivering medicine anymore. We want you, the workers who are already taking care of like 240 people strung out as much as they can.
Right.
You to do our job and come over here and do this. And they're having to go up there and get the medical people. And they don't even know. They said, well, we can't tell you who's medical because that'd be a violation of HIPAA. Oh, so you want me to do your job, get the medical people out of the cell, bring them to you without you telling me who it is that I'm supposed to be bringing. That's insanity. That's like, and Bob, that has actually happened. I'm not making that scenario up. We actually had that case with that guy. They were going to fire him, if I remember correctly, or demote him down, way down, and we stepped in and stopped that. I believe that was at North Fork, if I remember right. I think I still talk to the old boy occasionally that happened to. But, I mean, Lord, that's the insanity that we're talking about. And then he opens the cell, lets the guy out, and that guy goes down there, if I remember right, and kills somebody. And then they're going to hold him responsible when it was the warden who approved it, when all of these other people ain't doing. And this one guy that's doing 50,000 jobs, not told and trying to do his best job on what information. Oh, no, let's hang him out to dry.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in this case, or it looks like in this case with what you're talking about. The lieutenant, again, it's a similar type scenario. And, he's promoted to captain. Obviously, you think he's a good, how do you get promoted and fired at the same time? That's the kind of insanity that we're talking about. Those are the things that what in the hell is going on,
Yeah. Makes you wonder. Well, I'm reading a very interesting deposition. I guess it's not deposition, it's the filings of the lawyers wrote. This is not DOC, it's county jail, which apparently they have a lot of the county problems is bigger than our problems. I think we have at DOC. This was in Chickasha, and they've sued them for $5 million. And what happened was the guy was in there for DUI, but they had him walking down these steep staircase, and they had him shackled in the front where he couldn't really get down there, and he fell, went down the steps and fell and hurt himself real bad. And they didn't take him to medical or do anything about it. And anyway, he ended up dying.
Bob, can I tell you something? I got a little confession to make to you.
Okay.
The other night when I was at your house,
Yeah.
you had that out on your table.
Yeah.
And I read all that. I read your mail, Bob. I
Oh, you did?
I snooped in your mail. I actually read that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Well, maybe you can explain it to me because I hadn't got to read it all yet.
Well, I think the issue in that, Bob, was not the fact, he's 70-something years old. He fell down the stairs, but they did not treat him. They didn't try to take care of him, and they ignored him, kind of like the example I said. If you see a guy bleeding to death and you go, hey, I'll be back in 10 hours, that's the same thing as what we're talking about. This elderly man who they brought in on an intoxication deal falls down the stairs, has severe injuries, and they did not address those injuries for a unreasonable amount of time, and the guy ends up dying. And so the lawsuit, I think they sued for $5 million, I believe, Bob.
That's right.
But anyways, yeah, I was pretty interested. I was like, what's Bob got out here on a lawsuit deal? Me and Micah was sitting there talking, or Micah was talking to some other people. And so I just sat down there and went through it pretty quickly. I didn't read, but I just scanned over it. But I think I got the gist of what it was,
Well, on some of the things that they're talking about that's happened in the past was pretty much like DLC. I mean, you can see DLC in there with some of the things they've done, but this guy was asking for medical help, and he didn't have his cellmate even carried him down to the medical, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah, Bob, I got a call. I don't know, probably 2 weeks ago about an incident out there at Great Plains where a person, something happened with his intestines and got kind of turned around, and he was actually vomiting feces. And anyways, it's my understanding that they did not address his medical condition, left him sitting for quite some time. Finally called a couple of employees to take him to the medical facilities, and when they arrived, he was dead, is what I was told. Now, I always like to say this is what I was told, so I haven't checked it out yet, but I do know that person, one of the people involved in that, ended up resigning or quit because of that incident. They were just like, hey, that's kind of final straw. I've seen too much here. That person is not, a person that's kind of, it's not like a PTSD or that was too emotional for them. It's just like, hey, I'm not working in a place that operates like this. It puts me at risk, and I'm not, they were just like, hey, this place is too, and they were talking about, just the way they treat their inmates and how employees were treated and what they were expected to do. And they just said, hey, I'm not going to work in this condition. And they're still in the law enforcement. They went out and got a better job, in my opinion, much better job. It's still in law enforcement. So it's not like they're squeamish on that. It's just that what they were saying is, hey, things are just getting too out of hand over here, and I'm not going to work that way. And so they just quit. So, now if I'm trying to check out, but it's Bob, I don't know about you. In fact, we were joking a while ago when I told you I feel like a little Toyota truck trying to pull a daggum bull wagon. You know what I'm saying? Trying to pull a semi truck load. I just, Bob, I could take you right now. My wife looked on my email last night. I'd had 4,000 emails.
That's all?
Yeah, just a few, and
from one person.
I got a few that'll send me daggum books for sure. But Bob had to check, when you're trying to check this stuff out, and that's what's aggravating. Some of these things are true, and you understand people they're out of road. Where else do they go? That's what I don't know if you feel that way, Bob. But the people who get out to me, they've exhausted. They try to call the prison and nobody will talk to them. They get ignored.
No answer.
No answer. I've talked to so many people. Hey, I called up there and couldn't even get nobody to answer the phone. And
I get that on Holdenville all the time.
Oh, I get called on that stuff, So it's Bob. It's you want to answer people back. You don't want to. But again, when you do find out stuff, my relationship is stretched. So it's harder and harder to get things done. I know I used to go to prison down there and visit a couple of these guys on death row, and as long as their family would say, "Hey, Representative Humphrey's coming." Well, last week I got notified. Nope, you can't no longer do that. You're going to have to notify them yourself. You're coming, which I don't care. I have no problem, them knowing I'm coming. But I am going to put in a bill to say shouldn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? I think that we as legislators ought to be able to appear and get a really real time look at what's going on, not the glory, tour, not the gold tour. I want to get the everyday. This is reality. And again, Bob, I don't know about you, but I don't relate with this. If I was the director of a facility and I had legislators interested, I wouldn't want to clean that up and show you something that's not true. I'd want you to come. I would have you come on my worst day because I would want you to see what we're up against. And I'd want you to go back and go, hey, these guys need some help. But they do it right the opposite. They want to make everybody believe everything is A-OK, number one, great. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be proud and shouldn't try to work hard. I mean, I get that. But I'd also have some reality dosed in there.
Well, I'm going to change the subject. Recently, I received some, what you do when you join OCP, you go in there and you fill out on the page we have, which is O-C-P, and you get your application. You put down your name, your date of birth, what prison you work at, and so on, just an application. And so that we can get they be able to get deducted from their check. Well, I had a strange deal. I've never had this before. I had about 6 of them come in, and they were all phony. They checked them with DLC, and they say they never had anybody like, that's not the name they have. Didn't have them. So I don't know why somebody would want to take the time to do that and create problems for me as well as for Department of Corrections. Takes time from both of us, so it's strange.
You want me to tell you something, Bob? We kind of visited. You told me that, and I had forgotten about it. But here's the deal: I was going to tell you when you were saying that. We may want to look a little further into that. We may want to do. I know you just kind of go, well, that's stupid, and let's move on. But if they did that, I think we'd have to talk to a lawyer and we'd have to see whether I'm right. But you are submitting that form to the state.
Yep.
And the state is actually paying you guys on those falsified information. So there's actually a charge for false declaration to the state and, for committing fraud to the state. That is a fraud upon the state. Even though that person's not receiving a direct payment from it, they still committed a fraudulent act that costs the state money. I think that one could argue that that would be a charge. So we may want to try to get somebody in on that and investigate that.
Well, I'll look a little further into it. They put an email address, they put a phone number, but I did try one of the phone numbers, and it wasn't the right person.
Bob, you wouldn't believe this, but I've actually had I don't know how many he offers to do private investigation. I'll just open me a little old deal and do investigations.
Yeah, you should.
Private eye.
You do good on investigations.
Here's what's funny, Bob. I actually already am qualified. All I got to do is go down there and pay I've already got all the credentials on it. Just pay the deal. PI.
How much were you paying? How much that cost?
I don't know. I've never checked it, but I've actually thought I actually referred, I think, 4 or 5 cases to a private investigator, and I know that he gets pretty good, retention on that. Gets paid up front, and then he's got to work those. But in 1 month, I think I referred him 4 or so. So I probably could stay busy, but Bob, I ain't got time. I can't. I'm so busy with.
And you don't need the money, so.
I need the money, Bob. Look at me. I'm about to starve to death. Look us.
Well, anyway, I just found it interesting that when I wrote them to send them to the.
Well, Bob, I hope everybody listening understands what we're talking about. That somebody just simply to say. Somebody out there is trying to mess with OCP so bad that they're going out there and making false people. Now guys, this ain't, that probably would have had to been done by computer, wouldn't it, Bob? I would think that was emailed in there. So somebody either emailed that they're not real smart if they emailed it off of their own email. That would be. But that's the way people get busted. It's the dummies that get busted. But if they're not doing it off their own email, to go out, get somebody else's email, set up all that information, and email that on 10 or 12 people, you got to be, you got to be wanting the best for somebody pretty bad to do that.
And it's a lot of work to put it together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, here's the deal. Even if I'm aggravated at you, Bob, I'm not going to do that much work. It's too much work for me. I'm dang sure not going to commit a fraud to get to you. And again, what does it hurt you? I mean,
wait a minute. You get aggravated with me?
Bob, I said, if I was aggravated.
Oh, okay.
Only reason I get mad at you, Bob, is if you take my Reese's cup out of your refrigerator. If you did that, I might be agitated a little bit.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do anything like that, would you, Bob?
No. Well, JJ, let me ask you a question. Do you think things are getting better at DLC, or are they getting worse? Or are they just the same?
Well, here's where I'm at with that, Bob, is that my relationship has so been stretched with the Department of Corrections that I can't get a fair look on that side. And so I don't have the numbers to say. I can tell you in talking to employees that most of the employees I talk to, like the overwhelming amount of employees, feel like it's as bad as it's ever been. That's what I'm hearing. That they haven't got a lot of hope, and they just feel like they're drowning, and it just in quicksand, and it's just getting deeper and deeper. And now that's the people I talk to. And again, everybody, oh, you're too negative. That's not me being negative. That's what I'm telling you. I'm being told from others. And I also included, I don't hear from the administration, so I don't know what their take is.
Well, yeah, since the director went in there, I guess he's told everybody not to talk to us. And
well, Bob, I think he views you. I think he views you as a third-party union that works against him. I kind of got tickled because he's met with your president. Or your board president or chairman, whatever y'all call him. So he's kind of went around you. So if he believes that's a union and that you're not, that he shouldn't have any contact with you, your third party union, then why does he meet with another person? So is it a third party? Is it a union? If you're not going to have anything to do with it, then don't have anything to do with it. But then if you go circumvent and he won't deal with you because he can't control you, but he'll come around here and deal with somebody that he can.
Well, he can get information about OCP. He could talk. He could a lot of information that he could get that he wouldn't have access to, and he could do things like ask this person to any negative or any negative emails that we get on our site that we would delete them. So there's no negativity there. So there's lots of things he could do, and I don't know how many meetings they're having, but I know they've had several.
Well, anytime that you have a position where he can offer you a promotion, make your life enriched and better, that's why you have your position, because there's not that's going on. They can't control you like they can't control that person. That's why you have a director and you have that position. And so what just blows my mind, though, Bob, is that you're going to sit down and be so hardcore. We're not dealing with you because you're a union. We're not dealing with you because you're third party. Okay, that's fine. If that's your stance, that's fine. Take a hard stance. But then you turn around and you go and backdoor it. Oh, we won't deal with you. You're a union, but we'll deal with your president who works for us. And so we'll deal with him. And it's just not a good situation. And again, I would really encourage the president to come back and report what's coming out of those meetings. How are you benefiting the OCP, the employees? Because OCP is not about one person. OCP is about a membership. It's about all the employees that are represented in that membership. And so again, that's what that's about. That needs to be the report. Again, I don't understand the director's thinking on that. I do understand the director's thinking, because what he's thinking is, I don't want to deal with Bobby Cleveland because I can't control Bobby Cleveland. I want to deal with somebody that I can control and that I do have control over. And so that's what that is. It's not a good situation.
Well, it makes no sense. And actually, if you take a look at our bylaws, we have here, the president really is out. He's already passed up his time. You have a time that you can serve, and he's already passed that service time. So it's time. I'd really encourage the membership. Hey, let's get together and let's elect some officers and do some things. And again, I'm not part of that. So Bob, I'm probably going to get you in trouble. It's just that here's where I'm at. And I think everybody understands this. I have always been for the employees of DOC. I fight for the employees of DOC. I am passionate. About the department and working for the department and the employees of the department. And so why I love OCP, why I've tried to work with OCP and just practically have adopted myself to y'all. But it's because I think it can be a great organization. And my goal is to see it become a powerful organization. And the way you do that, more members, more active members. They got to be active, getting active people on the board, people who do not hate the department, who want to see the department become the best that it can, but people who are willing to stand up to the administration and demand excellence. Well, they are, when I say they, the administration there are trying to get people not to join OCP. They're trying to get people to resign from OCP, and apparently it's not working because our membership we're getting it back up there again, and also the calls. My calls hasn't slowed down of hearing different things. Has yours?
Oh no, Bob. My calls have increased. If anything, right. I can tell you my emails have greatly increased. People have discovered my email, which is justin.humphrey@okhouse.gov, justin.humphrey@okhouse.gov if you need that. But yeah, people have been writing me constantly. I would appreciate it if you do write me, don't write a book, man. Write a paragraph, put your number in there. I'll try to get back with you if I can. And so,
but also they don't need to be doing it on company time.
Don't do it on company time. Don't do it from a company email. Don't email me from your company email. Get me on the private email and contact me. I've got people contact me by phone, text, email, letters. Yeah, Bob, I mean, it's astronomical. And I will tell you the increase of family. So the family calling concerned about their loved one not getting their medications, not getting their diabetic medications, not getting special food, separate teas things, segregated housing and being threatened. All of these kind of things are what I'm receiving. So, anyways, that's where I see a huge increase in what we're getting.
Yeah, it hasn't slowed down, that's for sure. Well, I thought it did slow down. I take that back. There for a couple of weeks, it seemed to be maybe they're decided to quit firing everybody and try to help everybody and try to trying to get rid of them.
Bob, I do think the firing stuff was slowed down, but the assaults on inmates, inmate on inmate assault, the medical stuff, the not being moved. People are being told they're going to be moved, not moved. All of that kind of stuff is just, man, I'm getting inundated with that kind of stuff. And here's what's funny, Bob. A lot of it is like legislators call me. So somebody calls their legislator, that legislator calls me, and then I got to see if I can do it. That's a big part of what's going on.
Right. Well, it slowed down, but you're right. It was for firings that's made a difference. But I guess these lawsuits, I guess one of them is going to be coming up here pretty soon in court. It still does not make sense, Judge A. I don't understand this from the why DOC, when they've got attorney generals got lawyers. DOC has lawyers, but yet they're going to the outside and spending that money, taxpayer money, to take care of business. I mean, they need to get rid of all their lawyers if they're going to do that. I mean, there's no sense in having lawyers at the Attorney General's office. That's what he's for. That's one of the things that he does.
If the state tax people are paying for a legal division in your department, you have a whole legal division, then why do you need legal to represent you? But if you do need, like you say, you have a whole dang elected officials, which are the AG's office. He's got a whole office, whole building full of people that do that. And so, why do you need that? But Bob, I don't know whether it's true, but I was told, and I really wonder, I don't think me and you have that much influence, but who knows? But after we had our couple of times talking about this very instance, we saw that that we had what I was told was that that we were. I'm talking to somebody off to the side on the deal, but I was told that we had the lawyers. So they went out and got the lawyers for them. I was told they've already resigned and quit, and now it is going to the AG. So I was told that the AG picked up their defense, the state's defense.
But they still have lawyers.
Well, I was told that they dropped that high dollar law firm that was involved in that. I was told they got out of it last week. I don't know. I got to check that out to see.
Well, I hope they did. I hope you do use that. But you know what? They've created their own problem the way they do business. and they wouldn't have to have all those lawyers if they did business right and trying to be and they try to be just transparent.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they would treat people, and again, Bob, for me, that's where if you want to recruit, if you want to get more people to come to work, take care of your people that work for you. Your biggest recruitment will be the people who work for you. You know, and again, if you take care of them, they're going to go out and brag on you, and you're going to be able to recruit people better to go to work for you.
Yeah, that's something they don't believe.
And you won't get sued. And Bob, again, just be fair. But, you know, I know they don't think we're fair on them. I know they think we beat them up, and I'm not trying to beat them up or be unfair to them. Department of Corrections probably has had the most lawsuits of any agency since I've been around.
They probably got the most of any agency ever. And
well,
they're still growing.
Well, I think we looked at the time that they were looking at that changing the merit protection system, and I want to say that you looked at that and that we had more than all of them combined. Not a little
way more, way more.
Like gobs and gobs more than the entire state combined.
Well, I remember the state had six lawsuits. You know, we had 80.
Yeah, it's 75 or 80 opposed to, 6. Yeah, I was thinking that was a number, Bob, somewhere in there like that. And that's what I'm saying. It's astronomically more. And Bob, I want to say I look back when I was in FOP a long time ago that it was something like that there was, So again, there's always been this problem. And some of it's where you work. Some of it's, you're having to deal with people 24/7. You're in control of them. These are people that don't follow rules all the time. And so I understand some of the difficulties. But again, most of your workers, most of your correctional officers, if you go down and ask them, what's the number one problem that you face? You would expect to hear, well, the inmates or the way the inmates treat me or the threats that's what you would expect to hear. Average person on the street would think, oh, the way the inmate's going to talk to you or they throw stuff at you or they threaten you. No, that's not what you'll generally hear. What you're going to generally hear from most of your employees is the administration. It's how we're treated. And that's what you generally hear. That's what I hear anyways from most of the people.
Well, that's more so just with this new administration. We hear it more now than what we heard before. But you thought before it was a lot, and this is really a lot. But
yeah, I agree, Bob. I do probably hear that more, but I just want to be fair to say that it's always been this has been a problem.
It has been.
And here's the deal, Bob. That's why when me and you talk about culture, I used to laugh. I'd mention culture, and people just that's all y'all say, culture, culture, culture. I'm like, it is. It's a culture. Now, guess what? We're changing the culture. And I used to get tickled. I'm like, hey, we hit a nerve. They finally heard us. But the problem is they hear, but it doesn't register. And they don't. I honestly, Bob, I don't think they understand what it is we're talking about, the culture. I don't think they understand what it is, how built in this is, how built in people's training, the way people treat, what's been done. And again, when I say training, they don't have any training as to stuff that I'm talking about. They don't formally get up and tell you how to harass people, intimidate people, do all that. But guess what? You go to work and that's the culture. And guess what? You work there very long, and that's what you accustom yourself to. And guess what? When you move up, that's how they treated you. That's how they got things done. Well, that's the way you do. And that's the way. So you spend 30 or 40 years in that culture. it's pretty rare if you don't become part of that. Not everybody does. Some people are able to keep out of that, but guess what? Those people who generally don't become part of that culture are generally who they are trying to fire, or who they will label troublemakers. They will label negative. They will label Bobby Cleveland and JJ Humphrey. That's the things that are you're going to see is people who call that out, people who work against that, people who try to stand up and say, for the employee. And again, that's what we're seeing. And when we're talking culture, that's what we're talking.
Yeah.
And several other things of using OIG, Bob. I mean, we talked about that last week. I think we had some technical problems. We didn't have a really good conversation last week, if I remember. Wasn't that the week that we had all the problems?
Yeah.
But one of the things, well, I meant it was on my end. I live out here in the rural America. But Bob, we were trying to talk about OIG and how OIG oftentimes seems not to do an investigation. Give you example, the showers, they did 100-page investigation and come up with not jack crap. How do you have 100-page investigation of nothing? 100 pages of nothing.
Well, you're trying to hide.
Well, that's that. I mean, can you say nothing in 103 pages? So here's what's funny. I just get tickled at that. You're going to investigate yourself, and you always come up with nothing. Whether it be rapes, whether it be these showers. You use that branch to intimidate people, to go after people. You know what I'm saying? And here's what's funny is if it doesn't matter how far you're up, if you're on the top tier, if they get mad at you, guess what? You are subject to get the same treatment. And that's what you got to understand. And that's what I try to talk to these wardens, deputy wardens, the chiefs, even the people in administration. You need to understand, the way that can spin back around on you and be used against you as well. And again, it's pretty intimidating when they start putting those forces against you, having you investigated, and you can't have a tape in there, but they can have a tape. You can't have a witness. They can have 2 or 3 witnesses. They can have come in there. They can talk to you like you are a piece of crap. If you raise your voice, you're intimidating, you're threatening, and you're gone. It's everything stacks in their favor. And again, it's a poor process, Bob. Right. We need to get that OIG out from under the director and move it to a separate division.
Yeah, I think too, when we're talking about that OIG, we're not talking about the individuals who do this because they're instructed what to do. But the employees that I know at OIG are good people.
Most, yeah, I think. And Bob, here's the deal. Whether we're talking most of the there's some in administration that I disagree with, but most of the people who are in Department of Corrections, I've not met many people I disliked. I mean, they're doing their job. They're doing what they're told. If they got to be told to come out here and tell me I can't come in this facility, I was told the other day I can't come in a facility unless I go through this other chain. I'm not mad at the person on that. That's not that big of a deal because they're doing what they're told.
Well, that goes in right back again to transparency. They don't want any transparency. They want to be able to work in the dark, and they don't want any transparency. And they get upset when we bring something up where they're trying to hide it. But JJ, that's about it for today. I'll just let you make the last statements, and we'll close her down.
Well, I just want to tell everybody that a lot of times we get put that we're bringing negative. Is it negative to say that we're half-staffed, that we've got a shortage in staff? Is it negative to talk about how we correct those problems? Is it negative to talk about that we have violence on inmate violence and that we can't find the truth on how much of that violence is actually occurring where these incidents occur. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to report all of the reports that we're receiving so that we can get feedback and find out? Is it wrong that we want to talk about what's being done to stop the organization that represents the employees? Is it wrong to talk about all of the efforts made to stop people from joining, all of the efforts made to go around and try to backdoor that when they say they don't want to use that? Is that wrong, or is that just the truth? Is it wrong to report the truth? And that's what we're trying to say. We're not negative. We're not mad at anybody. We're not going after any one individual. What we are talking about is how do we get more employees? How do we create a safer environment for the public, for the employee and the offender? So that's our mission: protect the public, protect the employee, and protect the inmate. That's what our mission has always been. That's what our mission is always going to be. And that's who we are. And that's what we're trying to do. And so if that's wrong, then I'm not really sorry, because I'm not going to apologize. That's the mission I took an oath to, and I'm not going to apologize for trying to get it done.
Well, thank you. And we'll just shut her down. And I appreciate you. God bless you. And we'll see you.
Appreciate you, Bob.